In this tutorial, we're going to check out the form upgrades that the Dynamic Content for Elementor plugin gives to Elementor Pro and its form functionality. You can do things like send PDFs based on Elementor templates based on the form that's filled out, have conditions on the form, all the form fields appearing or disappearing based on conditions that are met or not met, emails that you send, customized emails that have templates, Elementor templates as the design of the email, which can also have conditions for when they're sent or not sent based on what form data is filled out. We're going to look at how to save form data on the front end. You could have users fill out forms and have that data published on the front end of your website. I'm going to show you how to add icons to your form fields. I'm going to show you how to add tooltips to your form fields. I'm going to show you how to add steps to your form fields so you have multiple step forms and more. My name is Bjorn. I'll pass in WP Learning Lab, where we help you get better at WordPress so you can earn more for yourself, for your customers, and for your business. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you click subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss any future videos. And now let's get started on this great little form upgrade video for your Elementor forms. So for this tutorial, there are 3 required plugins. One is Elementor Free, another one is Elementor Pro because we need the form functionality, and the last one is Dynamic Content for Elementor because that's what provides all the add-ons to the form functionality. So once you have those 3 plugins installed, we can work some form magic. If we go back into an Elementor editor, I use the same template for tutorial for the same plugin in the recent past as well, so it might look familiar, but this one's going to be totally different, this tutorial. So here's our form. It's a nice looking form, and it's a basic form. It's just horizontally laid out, so it looks a little different. And what we have with the Dynamic Content for Elementor is we have the ability to upgrade our form in substantial ways. First, let's look at the enchanter. You can click on any form field on the left-hand side, and there is a wizard wand right here, sparkling some magic. And now we have the options to add icons and descriptions. They're both X by default, so there's no icon or description by default. You can have the icon be on the label, if there is a label. In this case, we don't have labels. But let's pick an icon anyway. For the phone number, let's just add a phone. It's probably a decent choice for that. So there's a phone icon now on the label, but there's no label turned on. So let's turn the label on right down here. And we see we have the phone number beside the label. Say we don't want labels, we want the phone inside the field. We just click on this box right here, on input. It adds the phone inside the box, and people can click and type, and the phone stays there. And you can add those to every field that you want. Tour type. Put a calendar in there, put it inside the field, and boom, this is a drop-down field. Yet we have the ability to add an icon for that. We have a date field. The calendar may be more appropriate for this one, but even for those fields, we can add icons. Let's put it on input. Let's add a building. And there we have the icon. So that's a pretty cool way to level up your forms quite quickly. We also have the ability to add descriptions. So let's go back to the phone. Let's go to the wizard wand. Description right here, turn on label on, paste the description in here, and just phone description, super simple. Let's put the labels, turn labels back on. We have a little question mark that appears when you click on it. It will show what the description is. You can have it as a tooltip, which has various orientations, top, left, bottom, right, and you hover, and the description appears. You can also have it just appear right below the input field by clicking on this box here. This option would make more sense if the fields were stacked because the descriptions have to be very short for this to work when they're not stacked. That's how we can add descriptions to any field. And that is the form enchanter. I'm just going to quickly go to the dynamic.co website. This is where you get this awesome plugin. Let's go to widgets. And here we will look at all the form widgets we have. So we looked at the enchanted widget. Now let's look at the form steps. I have a dedicated tutorial on how to use the form steps. I'll link to that in the description down below and the card up above. So we're going to quickly whiz through it here, but check out that full tutorial if you want to know how to do the form steps in more detail. So let's go back into here. So to add steps, what we have to do is click on Add New Item and change the type from text to step. Let's call this one Step 1. Drag this one right to the very top. And this will be page 1. So right now everything is on page 1 or step 1. Let's add another step and call this one step 2. Drag this up to tour type. So phone and tour type will be page 1 as we see here. Now we have a next button, and that'll take us to step 2, which is choose date and the submit button. And this doesn't work in the back end. We have to do this on the live form. So it makes it really hard to edit unless we go down to the very bottom, open the steps menu, choose show all steps, turn that on. Now we can see this as the first step here. We have a hard divider line right through the middle. This is the second step. And so we can work on all the steps at once inside the form editor and then turn this off again once we're ready. We can enable the progress bar. We can have a step summary. And I go through every single option in great detail in the previous tutorial. So you can learn exactly how to do these steps. And it's a pretty long tutorial because it's a pretty in-depth process. And check that out if you want to know how to do the steps. Link to that in the card up above, like I said, and the description down below. So let's turn these steps off by removing them. Now let's move on to conditional fields. These are very important for a lot of form builders. Any field we open up, we have beside our magic wand, the condition option. This is added by the Dynamic Content for Elementor plugin. We click on it and we can set conditions for when a field should appear or not appear. It does make a lot of sense having a condition on the first field, but I want to have a conditional field that appears if they choose a certain tour type. So under tour type, you can choose any of these. And let's say when they choose history and architecture, we want a special field to pop in. So let's add a new item and let's label it as desired destination, which adds the description up here, the name up here. Add a placeholder so we can see it on the page because we don't have labels on the page. And this field should only appear if they choose history and architecture from the tour type. So let's go to condition. We want to show if field ID. We have field IDs that are not very descriptive. This might happen to you as well. So there's a bit of trial and error sometimes. I'm going to choose field 1. I'm trying to get the tour type field is equal to history and architecture, which is the first drop down. So let's see if that works. Let's go to update. Let's preview this thing. Come out here, change our tour type to history and architecture. Field did not appear, so that's not the right one. Let's change this to field 3. Update. Come back out here, refreshes automatically. Choose history and architecture. And there's our desired destination field that appears only if we choose history and architecture. If we choose a different option that's not that, it goes away. So you could have a conditional field set for every single drop-down item that you want, or every single phone number you enter. So you can have exact match of phone numbers, or maybe it's just the prefix for the phone numbers you want to match and have conditional fields based on that. Or if you have a form that shows a list of states, they could choose a state, and then after they choose a state, the city field appears. They choose a city from the drop-down, and you can have highly customizing conditional forms using these options built right into Elementor. This does not come with Elementor itself. It would be awesome if it did, but it doesn't. And luckily, there are awesome developers like Dynamic.000, these guys right here, that create these awesome add-ons. As you can probably tell, there are more than just form add-ons that come with this plugin. There's actually 57 different widgets you can add to your site with great functionality. I have a tutorial that goes through every single one of them, linked to in the card up above and the description down below. So if you're interested in this plugin and you want to do more than just forms, there's a lot you can do with this plugin. So check that out. Next up, we can create a PDF from our form submissions and then attach them to an email or save them to your server. Before I show you that, there's one last thing I'm going to show you. The submit button also has conditional. So you can have the submit button not appear until all the form fields are filled out or until specific fields are filled out. So you have the same conditions you can have for the rest of the form, you can have for the submit button as well, if you want to do that. So to add the PDF or to have the PDF generated, go to Actions after Submit. In here, we choose PDF. New PDF option appears, and this is where you can set a bunch of settings. Click on any of the question marks, it'll explain what each field does. You can keep these first two as is, those are fine. You can see how it works and then change them if you need to. What you need for sure is a template. So I've created a template called email, and it's just a basic Elementor template. I'll show you to you right now. Let's exit out of here. I command clicked to exit. Let's go to Elementor templates, theme builder. Under email template, click on edit with Elementor. And here we just have the headline or subheadline, headline, image, and two fields that are dynamic. First is the name field. This is added via a token, which is also built into the dynamic plugin, dynamic content for Elementor. And you can have wizard mode, which allows you to select all kinds of stuff, but we want specifically just from that form submission. So we have form, name. That's the short code we add in here. That'll give the name in this email. We'll put the name into the email. Email is pretty much the same, only the token is form email. We can also add another one if we want to cover all our bases. That is just form all fields. And this will add all the fields from the form submission to the email. So you don't even have to have these two if you don't want to. You can specifically design the layout if you use these individual ones. It's always form, followed by the actual ID of whatever that field is. And the all field just pulls in all fields. And there's a help page or a documentation page on their website. If we go to the docs under the PDF generator, see some more information here about these dynamic tags. Also the dynamic tag token page. This gives even more information about not just creating the PDF from emails, but all kinds of other information that we see under the wizard mode. Information from the post, users, terms, options, queries, dates, and system. And if you are a developer type or a giant geek like I am, you're going to geek out on these options here. If not, don't worry about it. Just use the basic form field ID and just use that to create these PDFs. So this is our template. Super simple. I'm going to publish it. Click on save and close. And then I'm going to go back to our editor here. Click back into our form. Go to the PDF option again. Under template, we choose email template. If you haven't chosen one, just look it up here. And that will put that template right into here. These other options are important, but first you have to see the PDF. Then you can decide how to change things or change things to see if it makes it look how you want it to. I'm also going to choose save. And this will save the PDF as media inside the WordPress site. We're going to keep these two fields as they are right now because we don't really know what they are or what they do. We will see that in the actual PDF form. So let's go out here. Let's see if we can fill this thing out. And Eiffel Tower, choose date right there, book a tour. The form was sent successfully. This message is pretty boring as well. This can be changed with the dynamic content for Elementor plugin. I'll show you that in a minute. Let's see if we can find this PDF. Let's go back out. Nope, let's stay in the editor here. Nope, sorry, this is the template editor. Let's exit the template editor for the email. Then we head into media. And this is our PDF right here. This does not look how it looked in our template. And there's various reasons for that. One of them is my screen is a whole lot wider than this PDF is. So it's forced to compress everything into this small area, which is fine for the text, not so fine for the images. So you'll find that images that are in line, instead of what we have here, an image to the right-hand side, probably set as a background so we can parallax it, all that fancy stuff is not going to translate well into a PDF. So you definitely have to do some trial and error to make sure this appears how you want it to. There's also a bunch of settings inside the PDF tab right here that will allow you to test other things to make sure that the PDF looks exactly how you want. For example, the page size. Maybe if we used a different size, I don't know what most of these are, but if there's a legal, here's a legal size. Legal is usually a little bit wider, so maybe that'll work better with this image that's off to the right. We can also have the page orientation change from portrait to landscape. So there's a bunch of different ways you can test it, and you definitely want to test it to make sure it appears how you want, but having the images in line is usually the best way to go to make sure that the images are exactly how you want them. And the title down here, the form data by, and the field description is the message. Those will be added here. So the title here, form data by, and it fills in dynamic information here. The description is empty because we don't have a message field. If you had a message field, the message will be filled in right here. And that's how we customize that. We can also use that same template we just built for the PDF as the actual email. If we go to actions after submit, click in here to add another action. We want to choose dynamic email. This is different from the regular email options, email 1 and 2 you get with Elementor. Very different. It adds dynamic email right here. Click on that to open it. We have a new message in here. We can add more than one. You can have more than one email sent out. You can have as many as you want, in fact, and you can even have them sent out based on conditions. When we click on it to open the options, we have the email turned on, which is great. Under condition, we can choose a field. Right now we have field 1, field 3, name, and field random characters. As you recall, these are the phone field right here, the tour type, the date, and the destination, desired destination field. These are not great names for fields. If you want to change them, you can easily do that. Let's just choose field 3, tour type. For that, if we go back to the form fields, we can click on any one of them like tour type, go to advanced, and change the ID to tour, for example. That might require a save. We'll see in just a second. Nope, it doesn't. So here's tour now. So we have a better name for our field. Makes it easier to use. And we can set the condition status to any one of these: empty, has a value, less than, greater than, equal to, or contains. And you can define exactly what that field has to contain for this email to be sent. If the field does not contain that, this email won't be sent. So for example, if you had a field where you had a drop down that allowed you to choose people in your company or members on your team, and you wanted the email to go to that person, you could then have a condition on that drop down where it says if they picked Bob, send the email to Bob. So you'd use contains or equal to. Since it's a drop down, they don't have to enter any information. They can choose the drop down value specifically, and that email will be sent specifically to that person because you can define the to down here. So you want to create a different one for every person you want to send to. So the first one would be the message for Bob. You duplicate it, you just change the condition value, change the to field, and that would be the message for Jane, and you do it that way. And that's just one example. You can create these conditions for pretty much anything you want. Then we have our regular sending fields in the subject right here. Then we can define what the email contains down here. We can send as HTML using all fields. It's pretty customary. Or we can use a template. Click on templates right here. Choose the template name. I'm going to type in email. Pick the email template. This is the one we use for the PDF as well. You don't have to use the same one. You could, in fact, have a different template for every one of these emails you send out to. Different template for Bob, different one for Jane, different one for Mark, different one for Mary, or whatever you want, really. So you can have a very highly customized email template sent out for specific purposes when specific conditions are met in the form field, which is pretty awesome. And here you can define how you want the styles, only HTML or inline styles for the email. You can change the flex or table type to be CSS flex, CSS table, HTML table. This is something you can come back here to and tweak to see if it helps to display the table better in your inbox. Turn this on to add any uploaded files to the email. If you have an upload field, people could upload whatever you ask them to upload, like a resume, for example, and they upload it, and that's added as an attachment to the email that is then sent out to whoever is receiving it. So that's the dynamic email option. And we also have message generator. This is the success message. So let's go back into our editor here. Let's close this. Let's click on actions after submit. Click in the field, choose message. We have the new message options appearing here. Click on that to open it. We can have plain text options if you want, or choose a template. You can use any template you want, like I said. I'm going to choose a blog post template just for something different. You can also choose a post as the template or user information as the template if you wanted. I'm not going to choose those. You choose one or the other of these three options. I'm going to add a close button, turn that on. I'm going to keep it to the right. I'm going to hide the form after submit, turn that on, click on update, and then roll back out here to the front end, refresh this page, fill out our form, and click on book a tour. And here's our blog post template right here. This is not very specific to the form we just filled out, but you can make it as specific as you want. You could have a different template for every form you create on your site, or you just have one standard one. Say it's a sales message, or a coupon, or your latest blog posts, or a download button for something they can download, whatever you want. Whatever you can create in the Elementor template builder, you can have it pop in right here after someone submits your form, which is pretty powerful stuff. Next up is exporting. We can also export. So let's go to actions after submit. Click on here and choose Export. Click on this arrow, and this will send data to another location. It's not really an export button where you can just export all the entries that were filled in on your site. This is something you'd send to a service like Zapier, for example, or some custom setup a developer's created for you, and you can send the data from the form through to that location. This is really for hardcore developers, not even dabbling developers. This would be somebody who has a real business purpose for this and has some development chops, or hire someone who does. You can choose which method you want, verify SSLs. You can add parameters or key value pairs to your URLs to pass the data as well. That is all described in a help page on here. So if we click on Export for Elementor Pro Form, then click on the docs, this will give you all the information you need to create this. And again, this would make sense to a developer. If you've never developed anything before, you'd read through this and you wouldn't be any wiser. But a developer would know exactly how to use this information to create what needs to be created. So that's the export functionality. Let's go back over here. And now we're going to check out the save for Elementor Pro Form. So let's go back into Actions After Submit. Let's choose Save. Adds the save option right here. This allows data to be saved when the form is filled out, not inside the back end, but on the front end. So you could have a form that people can fill out. A user comes and fills out, say it has a title and a body for the content, and you can have that saved as a blog post on your site. So you could have user submitted blog posts. You'd set that up right here. So we have the post option turned on. We'd set up all the options here, and they could save it as a blog post, like I just said. You probably want to keep the status as draft down at the bottom so you can review what they've submitted, but that allows you to have user submitted content. You can also have the data saved under the user profile. You have it saved as terms, you can have it saved as options. And the form we have on the right-hand side is not the perfect form to demonstrate this, and so I'm just going to go and talk through it because it's pretty straightforward if you think of the regular WordPress editor just being on the front end, so somebody else can fill it out. You can ignore empty fields. You can have an upload file option, so you can save the files as media. You can turn that on here. You can save multiple as an array. This is for upload files and select fields and checkboxes. This would be more for the development end. If you had a specific WordPress template that output arrays, this is what you want to use. If you don't have that, don't worry about it. After they fill out the form, you can redirect them somewhere. You can make the data anonymous. You can update data that already exists. This is probably more relevant for, say, the user fields. So they could come in and update their bio and overwrite the bio information they already have. You can also add meta information in this field here. And then the actual post itself will be created in this area. So the post title, you pick the field that is the title of the field for this first option. You'd pick the field that is the content. You'd change the post type, probably keep it as posts. Although it depends on your site. Either way, you choose the post type that this content will be published to, and the post terms, which is the tags or categories, choose that here. The status, publish, private, or draft, and post as parent of other posts, turn that on, yes or no, depending on your needs. But when you have all that set up, you have the ability to have users submit content on the front end and have that saved as a draft, or you can publish it immediately onto your site, which is pretty powerful stuff. And we also have the option after submit. A lot of stuff happens after submit. To have a dynamic redirect. Click on dynamic redirect, add an item. We can have conditions. So based on specific information they put into the form, for example, under tour, status, let's choose equals to, and you type in whatever it equals in exactly how it is, exact match, so history and architecture with an ampersand. And then if that is true, if someone chooses that, you can redirect them to a specific place. You can add another item, choose tour again. Values equal to, you could choose Seine River Day Cruise and have them redirected to somewhere else after they submit the form. Ideally, it'd be specific information about the thing you just selected or something that's very complementary. You can have as many redirects as you want. You'd also want to have a fallback redirect, or not at all, just have a thank you message. But if you wanted to redirect everybody, you have to have a fallback redirect just in case you missed any specific redirects up here, then you go to a thank you page or something, some kind of fallback. So you can add as many of those as you want. So if you think you'd like to upgrade your forms like I showed you in this tutorial, or if you want to have any of these other 57 widgets and over 17 extensions on your website, I encourage you to check out Dynamic Content for Elementor. Click on the link in the description down below. It is an affiliate link. If you buy through that link, I get a small commission. It does not make it more expensive for you. It's just that the developers share some of the revenue with me because I send you to them. And once you go to the site, go to the pricing page and choose the plan you want. There's a personal plan, $39 a year for one site, $109 a year for 1,000 sites. The only difference between the two plans is the number of sites. All widgets, all extensions are on both plans. There's also a lifetime deal, $99 for personal, one site for a lifetime, $300 for 1,000 sites for a lifetime. If you like what you saw with Elementor forms in this video, make sure you check out this one right here, which shows you all of the elements available with the Dynamic Content for Elementor plugin. There are a lot of them. There is 57 as of this recording and 19 extensions, which are not full-blown widgets. They're just more information and more options added to existing widgets of Elementor and of other third-party plugins for Elementor. Make sure you check that out. Then make sure you click subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss any future videos. My name is Bjorn Allpass from WP Learning Lab. Until next time, keep crushing it, and I will see you in the next video.